shout. It's on this last thing. You know, Ed, that around about this time we had a Boeing 707 at Cardington, and we ran quite a similar case. We had 6 rows of fully upholstered seats and all the bins and everything, and we used an open doorway and a tray of fuel. And from memory, doing the FED calculations on what the gases we actually measured, we had about 3 minutes before conditions became untenable. And mainly it was due to the fact that the seats got involved. It was the seats that produced all the killer fuel. In fact, when we protected the seats with a water spray, there was all survivors. And the other thing I remember was that we had incredibly high cyanide concentrations, so from memory about 3,000 parts per million after 3 minutes. So I felt that that was a very big factor in the knockdown. What kind of cyanide concentration?
I can't remember the exact values, but they were very high. In fact, we think that the hydrogen cyanide concentration had a lot to do with the fatalities, although it was the heat that actually killed the passengers in the simulation, but they were prevented from getting out by the HCN. And that was quite clear in the simulations.
There also the blood levels, I remember that there was very good blood analysis.
Yes, there was, yeah.
And they all had very high cyanide.
Yeah.
There's a question for Ilya about the exit signage. If I remember rightly, you did the tests on festivals. Yeah. On the evenings when there was a festival in town.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there any account taken of alcohol levels?
I didn't.
Yeah. If the tests were done on participants who were at a festival, had anyone been drinking? And do you think that would have affected the results?
There were alcohol-free festivals.
Okay.
So there were people that were they were not drinking. Yeah, yeah.
Anybody else? Yes.
Just a quick question. On the opening of the front door, would some of those lives have been saved if the guy started opening the left front door first and not? There was some time lost because he was trying to open the right front.
Yeah.
And so, you know, because I'm thinking about your flow dynamics down the aisle.
Yeah.
And basically that's the rate limit.
I'm not sure it would have, because the L1 exit was on the side of the fire. And even when that exit was open, very few passengers wanted to go out that way because there was lots of smoke out on that side of the aircraft. And so if you look at the statistics, the data on the exit usage, the L1 exit usage was very, very small because people didn't want to go out that way because the fire was out that way and they could see the smoke. And at that early stage in the cabin, it wasn't that bad. And so people were queuing up by the R2 exit that wasn't open, that they couldn't get open. So passengers, I'm assuming passengers made the risk assessment that it's not so bad in here at the moment, that looks really bad out there, I'm going to wait to go out on this side. So I'm not sure that a lot more people would have gone out that way. The interesting thing though of closing the R2 exit, there's one simulation we did, the fire conditions inside the cabin were considerably better up the front. And that's because of the wind again blowing in. Now that you've got the door closed, right next to the open door, it's channeling even more of the air down the fuselage. Okay, and we believe, okay, this was a wind-driven case, but we believe if airport firefighting crew had these large portable jet fans that they could bring up to an exit on an aircraft to take the place of the wind in this particular incident and blow those hot gases out, assuming you've got an opening at the other end, we think that would actually improve survivability in these bad fire cases. So it's an interesting observation from this particular fire. We didn't model the fan, but you can imagine if a fan was put there instead of the wind, with that door closed, it could become a useful life safety means for aircraft flight.
Okay. Another one? No one has questions? Michel, about your the T3 signs. You're saying that most of the signs are put in new smoke detectors, yes? Were they, what percentage of these smoke detectors there are installed in dwellings today? Because it sounds like people are not used to this smoke detectors
That's
yet.
right. Yeah. And that's the point. And if you pick up a smoke detector in the hardware store or wherever you buy one, it should have the T3 signal. Now, even still, some are still displaying the on signal, although most have the T3 signal. And certainly in new homes and new home builds and new home installations, it's the T3 signal. So there are still a lot of people who have the old signal in their homes. That's quite true. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? If the bell was so effective, just the boring old bell, and that was the second best, why do you want to go to something else?
Well, I don't want to.
No, but why would anyone else want to? I mean, I think your data showed that the simple bell was pretty good.
Yeah, the simple bell. I imagine that a smoke detector is cheaper to produce and than a bell. But that's the only thing I can tell you. I'm not an engineer, so I'm a psychologist. But that would be my reasoning for that. Certainly I know the low pitch of the T3 signal was selected because it cuts through ambient noise better than a higher pitch, whereas ergonomics shows you that higher pitch is more annoying and therefore conveys more urgency or makes people respond faster. But I can't tell you why we don't just use a simple old bell.
Nobody? Just another question from this to Pietro. You made a survey and you have 601 questionnaires returned. It's quite large number, I think. But you didn't say how many people were involved to know the population to see if this a sample is good or not. Or
All right.
Have you done some kind of statistics analysis?
Actually, that would be a good question to Marcin, my friend, who just woke up. Do you remember what's the total number of people that were?
Okay, so the idea was to have a high percentage of return surveys. So we didn't want to make it via emails, just a simple paper. So we gave those papers to people when they were returning to the offices and asked to give them back after 15 minutes. So totally it is something like between 97 to 98% of returned surveys. So it's pretty good. We got some demographic also questions there, and the future work for us is to make more correlation between the answers given and then the people, their age, their role in the building, and also the place they were, because depending on the floor that they've been they were giving different answers to the questions.
Well, I think it's with good number of responders, because the fire safety manager is a really kind of a person that I don't know, brings credibility and really people listen to. He has charisma, and that's why people really wanted to collaborate.
Do you know how many left-handed and right-handed people you had in the study, and which way they went?
No,
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's a shame.
I was thinking that also.
Well, the study that you quoted from our work, Veraswamy, we found that right-handed people have a much stronger likelihood that they're going to turn right, and left-handed people have a much stronger probability they're going to turn left in an unknown situation. And if they're right-handed and they come from a country where they drive on the right, that reinforces that, and even more people go right. So that could have an impact on the result.
Yeah, but we are planning to develop a questionnaire to couple with the future experiments in order to collect also this kind of data.
So, you said also that you didn't know if people that went to left, they really saw the sign or not. You didn't have this question here, your questionnaire was
No,
survey.
we couldn't manage questionnaires. Were first difficult to involve people in this kind of experience, so that were reluctant to first to take part in the experiment. So we decided not to. We prefer to carry out informal debriefing by talking with them and explaining this kind of research that is quite strange in Italy.
Can I ask another question? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought your facility, it didn't have a roof.
No.
So do you think the fact that people can look up, especially when they're looking for a sign, and they may get some other cues as to which is the way to go?
Yeah, it can be possible that they were distracted for
Yeah.
elements. Yeah, but without the roof, there were the problem that we couldn't dedicate it.
Yeah.
Since we have to guide with the cameras. No.
Just a quick question, did you use the running man exit sign or a word?
No, the running man with the
Another question?
Can I just go back to Ed's interesting study? Operationally, Ed, now, and I'm asking you because hopefully you might know, who takes the decision in a situation like this about which doors should be open? I mean, does the pilot look out the window and say number 1 and number 4?
No, the cabin crew.
He's asked me, and what's the basis upon? I mean, he's not got a model like yours to do a quick calculation on, has he? He's not looking at external wind speeds and doesn't know how big the fire is.
No, exactly. The cabin crew made the decision. The cabin crew, there should be, for every floor-operated exit, there should be a cabin crew member by that exit. And the cabin crew are supposed to look out. Every door, floor-level door, you'll notice has a window, a small window, and the cabin crew are supposed to look through that window and determine whether it's safe to open the exit. And it's the cabin crew that makes the call. The captain, if the captain knows, the flight deck knows, they'll say that the fire's on port or starboard, if they know. And if it's on port, then they should evacuate to starboard. But it's down to the cabin crew, basically. They've got to look at the exit, and these people that are giving you drinks and serving you food, they have to make these life and death decisions. And it's important to know, actually, that these people aren't treated really with a lot of respect by passengers on the whole. And they're actually highly trained safety people. They are the best safety feature on board the aircraft. They're highly trained individuals in making these sorts of decisions, and they're not just there to serve people drinks. So their training helps them under these sorts of circumstances. Could their training be better? Yes, I think it could be a lot better. But they are trained to make these decisions.
But even you and I, or even you, forget me, would have probably made the wrong decision, wouldn't we, on that plane?
Yeah, I mean, she...
That person had 2 goes at that decision. And the first decision that she made was the right one.
The one on the back.
Yeah. She made a decision.
Yeah.
She decided it was the wrong decision. She couldn't correct that decision.
Yeah.
But you're telling us the decision was the right one.
In fact, it was the right one.
So
yeah.
So this means that
in this particular fire,
yeah.
with the front exit open as well, with the wind blowing in that direction, the decision she made, unbeknownst to her, was actually the correct decision. I mean, I just felt sorry for this for this woman and her family, where this woman was certainly in the press was quite heavily castigated, and it turns out that the decision she made, unbeknownst to her, fair enough, but it was actually the right decision. Had she not done that, there would have been 17 more bereaved people.
But moving on from there, however badly we treat these people and however great they are, they still don't have any more tools now, it
No.
seems to me, than they did in 1985.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
They're making the right or the wrong decision.
That's very true.
So, you've got me shouting around your place.
Oh, believe me, I have. You've got no idea how expensive it is to make any changes on aircraft.
Hey, I've just got one point. You know, most of us have to fly home, right?
Safest place is within 7 seat rows of a working exit. Your chances of surviving a fire are greater than your chances of perishing if you sit within 7 seat rows of a working exit.
Let's go to the last question.
My question just for Aaliyah. The lab cube you've got, the walls are all white. The walls, the walls that are white. The colour.
Yeah.
It's just because the other experiments were conducted in real buildings where there was a lot more visual information, a lot more processing that participants would have had to do. And if you put like anything on a plain white wall, I'm guessing they've got more chance of seeing it. Did you consider that in your results and how it compares to the other results?
Yeah, but we wanted to use in these cases only sorry, if I compared my results with the other.
No, what he's saying is that in reality, there's a lot of other visual stimuli and noise, visual noise, and so it's generally harder to see a sign in a real situation, in a real building, than it is in the cube with just white walls and just the sign on them. So it's easier in the cube than it is in reality.
Yeah, I agree with you. There are other
How did your results compare to, say, Cher Hoy's results? The other signage trials that one of the researchers at FSEG have also done. Did you do a comparison at all?
to your studies?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the only study that I know about this kind of things is that
Yes.
they are performing
Yeah.
building
Yeah.
section. So the only data that I could compare is that about the familiar people that choose
Yeah.
the slightly their item. So the situation that it can be comparable, I think, with the people that the experiments in which from a single experiment without the
Yeah.
science. The proportion, I think, they are quite similar because I remember in your study there are about 52% of people that selected the right. Our data are 53%. So, but at a statistical level, there isn't a preferred direction.
So with the signage, so when there was a sign pointing to the left, how did those results compare to the results that FSEG did that also coincidentally pointed a sign to the left? Did you compare those at all?
No.
Okay.
That's the interesting case with the at the T intersection with the sign, the number of people that actually saw the sign and went to the left.
But we lack the data of the actual number of people that saw the sign.
Yeah, okay,
We only did the statistics. We tried to collect this kind of data from the video recordings, but it is not seen.
Okay. Yeah, no.
So this is a problem that we could have managed to consider as a feature.
Before closing here, I would like to remind you that there's a first poster session after this session is closed. We'd like to ask you to support the poster session. It's going to be held on the first floor of the Howard Building. It's